Be a good neighbor. This is module 19. It's a home study module. Hopefully you've watched Privacy Concerns, the first video that's up there. And so think about this whole issue of privacy. Now, we've talked about ethics in general. We want to do the good. We don't want to do the bad. Privacy is a whole nother issue. At the end of this module, we want you to start thinking about your own rules for keeping yourself from invading other people's privacy. Do unto others as you would like them to do to you. You don't want anybody doing certain things to you, then you shouldn't be trying to do those kind of things, or even appear to be doing those kind of things to others, right? A lot of these privacy concerns that have come up are misconceptions of what we're doing with drones. Now, if you're hovering directly outside somebody's bedroom window, okay, yeah, you're obviously doing something bad. That's not accidental. But if you're flying over some neighborhood trying to make a map, then they don't understand what you're doing. You're not trying to find out any kind of private information about any particular person. You're just trying to make a map of a community or a park or whatever it is you're trying to do. So we need to put a little effort into helping people understand what's going on, okay? Yeah, how would you feel, of course, if and that's when you say do unto others as you would have them to do you. I mean, you would really be mad if somebody was hovering over in the summertime, hovering over your backyard pool, just videoing you swimming around. I mean, it's just creepy, okay? Don't be creepy. That's not right. Okay, so you watch that video. Just as a point of reminder that when you are doing naughty things or appear to be doing naughty things, people complain. Who do they complain to? Sometimes they complain to you, which is great because you have an opportunity to explain to them what you're doing. You're not trying to spy on people, right? That's what you need to do. You need to be very nice about it and polite and help people understand. But that's not how it normally works. Normally, people go to the authority, the nearest authority, the police. So they complain to the police. The police go, well, there's no law against flying over property. So then they go to their legislature, their local people, and they set these drone laws, state drone laws. So in Georgia, there's a couple, in downtown Atlanta, there's a couple of parks that have signs saying no drones. And state parks in Georgia also have a general prohibition against flying drones. They're trying to protect the wildlife, partly, but also the people that are using these parks. The drones, if you have a couple of drones, or even one drone, it can be pretty annoying if somebody's buzzing around your head and you're trying to enjoy nature, right? FYI, though, if you talk to the park ranger and explain what you're trying to do, you're not just going around there randomly harassing people. If you explain to them, they'll often let you do it, give you permission, verbal permission. So that's a possibility. But what the point I'm trying to make is the reason for these laws, local laws and state laws, is because somebody's complained. You've somehow offended them or given them concern about their own personal privacy. The FAA doesn't care about privacy. That's not part of their deal. They don't, that's not their interest. We know that we have all these drones with cameras, some with zoom cameras. We have the ability to do these naughty things, but we don't, we just have to be aware that it's going to offend some people. We need to do our best to make sure that we're not being offensive, right? Doing property photography, for one, or delivering packages or cell tower land surveys. There's going to be people around that area that will notice and go, oh my goodness, there's something going on here, and be concerned. So there's privacy concerns. FAA, again, they create regulations for the purpose of safety, but not for privacy. We, as the operators of drones, are the ones who want to do our best to protect the privacy of others. Okay, right. Remember, and there's a little error on this slide, we know that majority of airspace is Class G airspace, which is uncontrolled airspace, is 700 feet around airports and 1,200 feet away from airports, right? So we have a lot of places we can fly, but these are all altitudes where the drone is observable. As the neighbor is looking up in the sky, they can usually see it. and they can hear it. So again, it goes on us to do our best to help people understand, right? So there are no formal guidelines for how low a UAS pilot may fly, of course. We know that, and I believe in class we've talked about United States versus Cosby. He successfully sued the U.S. military for trespassing and causing the death of his chickens. Okay, you can research that if you want. But it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and basically it was ruled that these flights were below 83 feet. That's not going to be that helpful. But it gives you an idea, though, that if you're higher than 83 feet, perhaps maybe it's a little less obtrusive, or at least you can help people understand that this is a precedent, legal precedent. I don't know how helpful that'll be. But otherwise, there is no formal guideline how low a UAS pilot may fly, right? For manned aircraft, you've got these other altitudes, so 500 feet in uncongested areas, 1,000 feet and whatnot. So we have rules for that. But for UAVs, there is no FAA regulation about how low you can fly. So basically, the general principle is you do not own the airspace above your property. But that doesn't mean you can't be annoying and cause the government to pass more laws. So we don't want to disregard these privacy issues, even though there's no regulation. We want to fly in an ethical and responsible manner, and can be courteous about when we're flying, way above whatever the regulations might be concerned. So we have some best practices. Other industry operators have gotten together and come up with some best practices, and they follow along with other privacy concerns that you see. Okay, so we want to be a model for best practices and standards, right? And if we meet a drone pilot and we see him or her operating in even a reckless manner, but in a manner that might cause some to be offended about their privacy, we should bring that up and mention it to them. Hey, you know what? The way you're acting now is just going to cause a lot of repercussions for all of the drone pilots out there. Not just you. Just if you're acting poorly, you're reflecting on the whole industry and all of the operators. So, you're building your own reputation, but you want to help the reputation for the drone industry in general, right? Okay. So anyway, there is and I'll put a link in this also. In 2016, stakeholders, that is manufacturers and pilot groups, have gotten together and come up with a voluntary best practices for UAS transparency, privacy, accountability, right? So develop some and communicate some best practices for the issues that may face a drone operator, whether or not it's private or commercial application. So they have the concept of covered data. Covered data basically is taking a picture of a license plate associated with a name, or an address, mailbox associated with a name, where people can track out and find out where these people are, right? If you take a picture of somebody and identify the name and their address, then they can track you down. Now, there's been a recent case where there's been protesters in front of the Supreme Court, and that's a problem, right? We all have the right to privacy, right? So examples of covered data are telephone numbers, publishing those along with a photograph, license plates, street addresses, full-face photographic images. You're on the street and you see this good-looking person, you take a picture of them and you want to sell that picture, you need to get their permission. You need to get them to sign a form giving you permission to publish or to sell this to be published. So consider that. Now, if it's no way to identify the person, when we normally take pictures of crowds of people as we're flying our drone around, you can't really identify the individuals. That's not a problem, but that's consideration. So let me read it, of course. Information collected by UAS that identifies a particular person, if the data collected by US is likely will not be linked to the individual name or other personally identifiable information, or if the data is altered so that the specific person is not recognizable, it's not covered data. So you're taking a license plate and you have a name with it, block off one of the letters of the license plate, then they can't track it down. Or if you really don't want to be publishing names unless the person is okay with that. I get, right, Facebook, right? You take pictures of you and your buddies and you link to each one of those things. That would be covered data. We need to be really careful about that because now somebody can track that person down and who knows what. You've lost control of that information. Okay. Also part of these best practices, let others around you know that you're recording those images as well. So in this case, they're suggesting that if you're going to be taking a picture of a development with homes, knocking on their doors, let them know I'm going to be taking a picture of the neighborhood. I'm not taking a picture of you, but I'm going to be generally out there. So if you don't want your picture taken, don't go outside. Just these are the hours I'm going to be doing it. I just wanted to let you know. You know, that's just part of our job. Okay. If you do get permission and you have covered data, which identifiable information, because somebody might want you to do this and ask you to do this, then you want to keep it safe. Only you and the people that are purchasing this information or requesting you to take these pictures and have identifiable information included, you need to keep it secure. Use encryption. Don't keep it any longer than you need to. You need to delete it afterwards. And, again, treat others as you would like to be treated. Again, I encourage you to go back to that document that they printed. That's way more extensive. I'm just hitting the tops of it here. Right. If you've got a business, you set up a business, you want to come up with a written security policy for using it, collecting it, using it, storing it, and letting people, certain people have the access to the information. Make some kind of reasonable effort to monitor security risks. If you have employees, provide some security training to them or to those who have access to this data. And only give certain authorized individuals a restricted access. And if there are any state or local privacy laws, obviously you need to consider that as well. You almost, if you're going to develop a business, you're probably going to have to hire some kind of a lawyer or some kind of insurance policy that covers this kind of possibility, right? So there's going to be laws passed. As time goes on, there'll be more and more laws that addresses the issue of privacy. Okay, so let's see, this video, yeah, that's another link. I've got another video that says new drone laws video. You might want to watch that. Again, it's back to the whole idea of the local laws coming up with, local governments coming up with local laws that address some of these privacy issues. So, this is a video about Phoenix, I believe. Yeah. So we do want to be aware of that if there are any local ordinances that might be passed. Okay, so, right. Some guidelines in general, if you can, tell other people that you'll be taking pictures or video of them before you do it. Okay, so if we go to a park, or like the other day, we were out there at Drake Field. And this lady was there, and she had this beautiful poodle dog, and she was walking it. So we asked her, is it okay if we take pictures? And we offered her, since I'm not trying to sell, we're just on a field trip, we said, would you like a copy of it? But basically, she was informed that we were taking it. It was a class trip, so we weren't going to sell it. If we were going to sell it, we'd ask her, okay, we might try to sell these photos. And she'd probably say, no, I want some of the money. And then we'd have to make some kind of arrangement there. But so if you think someone has a reasonable expectation of privacy, don't violate that privacy unless you have a good reason to do so. Don't fly over other person's property without permission if you can do that. And it's not always possible, but you try to get their permission if possible. Don't gather personal data for no reason, and don't keep it any longer than you have to. If you do keep sensitive data, secure it against loss or theft. And if someone asks you to delete that personal data, that you need to do that. If anyone raises a privacy issue, you're out on the field, or security or safety concerns, try to listen to what they have to say. Be respectful. That goes a long way if we be respectful, even if they're yelling at you and screaming at you. Just be respectful and you try the best you can. If it comes right down to it and they call the police, this is a encouragement for you to have a printed copy of the drone laws with you when you go to help a police officer understand. There are just so many laws out there, you can't expect a police officer to know about drone laws, right? That's just way too much to expect an officer to do. He's got a lot of other duties. He's just trying to do his job. He just wants to go home safely at night. Okay, so you might need to do some education there, educating people in a nice way, though, not a snotty way. Otherwise, you just raise the temperature of the conversation, and you're just not going to win for that kind of situation. So try not to harass people with your drone, obviously, and try to defuse the confrontation. If it's a confrontation, try to defuse it by saying, hey, I apologize. It is a legal operation, and I'm doing this part of my job, and we're not collecting. We're doing our best not to collect private information. We're certainly not selling pictures of your house or whatever.